Did you know that life coaches are needed now more than ever? I'm Frank Macri, founder of Thriving Coach Academy. I've trained over 1,000 coaches and helped them launch their own successful coaching businesses. If you want to make an incredible income and impact as a coach and have a lot of fun doing it, I'll show you exactly how to get it done. This is Life Coaching Secrets. What's up, coaches? I have a very special episode for you today. In this episode, I'm going to talk about one of the keys to go from being an ordinary coach to being an extraordinary coach. And that key is having mentorship, mentor coaching. Every single student who enrolls in the academy, they get to work with a mentor coach from start to finish who gives them professional supervision and thorough feedback on their coaching skills. Now, in this episode, I am going to introduce you to one of the mentor coaches on our team. His name is Tom Neufeld. Tom is kind of like a celebrity within the Thriving Coach Academy community. Everyone in our community knows Tom. They adore him, and I've been looking forward to sharing this episode with you. Now, Thriving Coach Academy, it's not a one-man show. I am not the only one that's supporting our coaches. There's a team involved, and with our team, we are able to deliver the best training experience out there. So in this episode, you're going to hear about Tom's story. You'll hear how he got into coaching years ago. You'll even hear about how his mentor role evolved within the academy and some of the insights that he's been able to discover about what sets ordinary coaches from extraordinary coaches. Tom's been able to work with so many coaches from our team, so he really brings an amazing perspective on how you can take your coaching skills from good to great. Now, this episode's also a great opportunity for you to know what mentor coaching is and how that's one of the most important and valuable things you're going to receive when you're inside the academy. So, without further ado, here's Tom. Enjoy this episode, and I'll see you in the next one. All right. Hey, everybody. I'm here with a very, very special guest. Tom Neufeld is one of our mentor coaches on our team in Thriving Coach Academy, and Tom is here to talk about mentor coaching and some tips for coaches looking to become extraordinary at their craft. So, Tom, welcome to the podcast. It's good to have you.
Thank you so much, Frank. It's great to be here.
Very cool. So, Tom, how about you give our listeners a little bit of background? You've been coaching for how many years now?
Oh, I think sometimes I forget. It's been a little bit of time, but I think it's been around 8 years.
8 years. Nice. So what were you up to before coaching? If you could give us a sense of what you were up to in your career, in your life, and then eventually to the point where you discovered life coaching and realized that was a career you wanted to pursue.
I think the best way to describe it is I was just up to life, and I kind of thought that was all it really was. It was going through the motions, going through school, high school, college program, getting married, and trying to do the best that I can throughout all of that. I would say, before coaching, especially in a slight comparison, is I don't think I was very aware of what was going on in my life besides what I was doing the next day, what I was doing, kind of coming up, and maybe some planning for different things when it came to my relationships and the other people in my life. But for myself, I definitely was more focused on everybody else, didn't know a whole lot about my inner workings. And that would be kind of how life was. It just kind of went on. It was something I just did on a day-to-day basis and didn't think about it a whole lot. Yeah. Just discovering coaching, I think, is what you were asking about too, kind of how that came about.
Yeah.
Really, that came about just by surprise. I ended up having trouble in my marriage, which ended in divorce and whatnot. But through that process, I came upon really other people coaching me through just other programs, meeting different people in my life that had been exposed to it. I had no idea what coaching was. In fact, I was actually a little bit against it at the time. I remember specifically. And it was at the point of, try anything.
Can I jump in? Why were you against it? I'm
Yeah.
so curious.
Oh, it was, I think because I describe myself as not so self-aware. Like, and when wasn't self-aware, when I look back on it, I really see that as a point of, I thought I knew it all. I had everything under control. I knew what I was doing when I really had no idea what I was doing. I was just telling myself I knew what I was doing. And so when it came to somebody else being able to help me to do something that, I already knew, or at least I thought I did. And coaching was one of those things. It was like, oh, why don't you try this? It was really helpful. It's like, I don't need that. And so that's where I was against it. But it ended up being something, because I was having other troubles with marriage and those types of things in my life. It was this, well, I'll try anything. At least that's what I told myself. And it worked. So it had me try something different. And that was really my introduction and exposure to being coached. And I remember the very first day that I was able to get some coaching. I had no idea what to expect. I was actually like, oh, this is such a waste of time. I remember thinking that specifically. And about 3-4 hours into, it was with a group that I was with. And I remember realizing that I actually didn't have it all figured out. And I remember coming out of that, there was a break. I called a friend of mine who I had shared this, view of, this is a waste of time, but I'm going to try anything with. And I called him up and I was like, Troy, this is like, I don't even know how to explain, like, not what I thought. I don't even know what I'm going to expect, but I was so wrong. And that was kind of the breakthrough of breaking through just my own mindset of, day-to-day life. And I know what I'm doing throughout life when I had no idea.
Wow. Yeah. So you were someone, as you mentioned, really resistant and even it sounds like a bit skeptical about coaching, and share a lot of thoughts I think many people have, which is like, I think I've got things figured out. Like, how could someone else possibly help me when, I've got it figured out? But then there goes the saying, we don't know what we don't know. And through just a little tiny bit of exposure, it sounded like you were hooked into the work. And then from there, you went on to deciding, I want to become a coach as well. So can you tell us about when that and how that shift happened for you?
Yeah, I mean, just in short, was one of the other things that I do in my life is I'm a registered nurse, worked at a hospital for a long time. And I remember seeing my coworkers who were a little bit older than I am, in their 50s, 60s, still working at bedside with patients, and their backs hurting, they're complaining, they're having a hard time. And I was like, I don't want to be one of those people. So I knew that much, but I had no idea what I wanted to do. And that was around when I was about 30. And a few years later was when I had the ability to realize that coaching existed. And what really happened was a couple years after that, about when I was around 35, I was just like, hey, it's like, wait, is this something I could do? Because I had already been exposed. I had actually had the opportunity to do some coaching with other people here and there, in a certain form. And it was amazing what somebody could accomplish in one conversation. And so it took about 1.5 or 2 years before I realized, like, hey, wait, this is something that actually someone could do as a career, as a job. I could actually help people, and I don't have to throw out my back doing it, from the nursing perspective. And so that's where that shift came, was like, hey, why don't I do this? Let me try this out. And that started the journey of searching and figuring out, well, how do I do this? And where do I learn? And where do I go from here? And yeah.
Nice. And now, so you've been coaching for 8 or so years, and also are a mentor coach in Thriving Coach Academy. So a lot of people who are looking to become amazing coaches, they wonder what the point of having a mentor coach is. And what we know, being inside the academy and seeing our students experience mentor coaching, we know that many of them say that the mentor coaching piece is maybe their most valuable part of the experience, because they're getting so much direct supervision and support. So in your own words, Tom, being a mentor coach and working with mentoring so many of our coaches, how would you define what mentor coaching is, and why it's such an important element for any kind of coach looking for proper training?
Well, mentor coaching, I think it says it in the word mentor, is, I am fortunate to be able to hold space for another person who is, I remember where I was trying to figure this out. Like, how do I do this? How is this something that I could do for my career or my job or all of those things? And as a mentor, I get to hold space for them to practice things that they're learning. And not only that, it's really how to incorporate their own strengths, their own person, who they are in their life, what they're really good at, and what other people know them as. How do they incorporate the coaching process into what they do best in their life as well, so that they can become really a coach like no other coach. Everybody is so unique in how they're able to get from one point to another point with the coaching process. And I get to help them out in figuring out what's the way that I want to do it. And how can I hone this skill that I'm learning, that I'm pretty much reading it out of a book to start with, to it comes up in the middle of a session and I know, wait, this could really help right here. This tool, this skill could really help right here. And to just pull it out of their coaching listening to be able to bring their client from point A to point B, and maybe even to point Z. I mean, really complete that out. And so that's really the biggest, I think, benefit I have as far as being a mentor. But as far as the students, I think it's really important to have somebody that can hold space to practice things, to mess up, to get feedback on, hey, how could I have said it differently in a safe space? How could I say it in a different way? What other skill could I have used here instead? And how would that look different? And to be able to just coach those different tools and skills that they're learning with a real life episode or a real life issue that somebody is having. And I think that the biggest value is really found in being able to mess up or not do it right the first time or the second time or the 10th time. And then to be able to move through that and grow and to make that be who they are as a coach, to hone it, to master it, and to be able to create their own way of doing the coaching process using all of the tools and skills that we give here at Thriving Coach Academy.
Yeah, so well said. And I love how you emphasize that it's both helping them know how to utilize the skills and tools effectively, and also pull out their natural gifts and their unique way of coaching, so they know that they don't have to follow a script. We're not giving them a script to follow. We want them to have frameworks, but also integrate that into who they are. So that way they feel that it is authentic to them. So when students enroll in the academy, they get a dedicated mentor coach. It might be Tom, it might be someone else on our team. And from start to finish, from the moment they get started in the program to all the way to the finish line right before certification, each student gets to work with a mentor coach and have those private one-on-one sessions. Now, Tom, on those sessions, brings real life challenges that he's going through. Our other mentor coaches, they bring real life challenges that they want coaching on. And what happens on those calls is our coaching students will coach their mentor coach for one part of the session. And then for the second part of the session, there's a debrief where Tom or the mentor coach will give feedback. and talk about what went well, what didn't go well, what could be done differently next time. So it's very much of a discussion. It's very much of a bring the student into the feedback process. So Tom, you have a really awesome perspective because you're able to know and kind of see what areas our coaches are doing well in, what area our coaches are struggling in a little bit. And Tom and I and the other mentor coaches and I, we have like this feedback loop where we're checking in with each other to see, okay, where do we find coaches are doing extraordinarily well and where maybe could we polish up some parts. So Tom, given what you've experienced, what do you find are some of the biggest challenges that coaches often run into, especially in the beginning? What are some of the most common challenges you see coaches have that you need to offer support with?
Yeah, I think probably number one, and especially at the beginning, is really, I think it comes from a confidence in self, but it's often comparing yourself to other people, whether it's in the program or out in life. And oftentimes with that comparison, it tends to freeze them up or to stop them in the middle of sessions and be like, "Oh, I don't know where to go from here."
Hmm.
And that, when you overcome that and realize that you have your own gifts and you are your own person and are able to grow into that, they're able to get by that. But that I think number one is usually what stops them, first and foremost, is really stopping themselves, by getting in their own head and not out with the client.
Mm. Yeah, that comparison's big. Yeah. What else? I'm curious what else you notice behind the scenes.
Yeah. And, so, I mean, there's a comparison. I think that there's also a bit of self-talk for
Mm.
not knowing these tools very well, or not knowing how to implement a new one or where to put it in. And what's funny is as the students keep practicing, without fail, at some point they surprise themselves
Mm.
every single time. They're like, I just, it fit right there and it worked really well, and it ended up bringing out, an amazing realization most every single time. And so it's just having that ability to push beyond, like, oh, I'm not sure how to use this or where to use this, and then they just do it, and it actually becomes something really beautiful when they actually do.
I think the theme of what I'm hearing is there's doubt in what tool should I use, doubt in am I a good coach? And
Mhm.
this is why mentor coaching is so important. This is why when a coach tries to just read some books or watch some videos or just consume passively an online course,
Mhm.
they're missing that whole piece of the equation where you need to know how to apply it and you need to know when it's appropriate to use those skills in real life challenges that people go through. Now, one of the questions we often get asked by prospective students is how are we evaluating our coaches? These mentor coaching sessions are not just a high five, you're doing great, or, hey, you really need work. We have really comprehensive criteria that we score and evaluate our coaches on. And they get that feedback sent to them in between every single session. And what's really cool is to see how the first couple of sessions, usually those scores are very low. And I tell our students in the beginning, don't be surprised or upset when you notice that your scores are very low. That's a good sign for us because that shows us exactly where we want to support you, exactly where you could improve your coaching skills. And what happens is incredible to see those scores go up by the third, fourth, fifth sessions. So, Tom, what do you see in terms of like session by session, the evolution of not just using the skills, but also maybe the confidence and the professionalism
Mhm.
that coaches show up with? I'm curious what you've observed.
I observe, everybody's a little bit different, but oftentimes the first one and two sessions are nerve wracking. First it's like, oh, what do I even do here, and how do I even do this process? And then we figure it out, we jump right in and we go. But after a couple of sessions of whatever happens in those, with everybody being different, in going into the third and the fourth session, it's just incredible the amount of growth that's there, and it's almost always reflected in every one of the scores on the scoring rubric that we use. And it's so enjoyable for me to be able to show them and share that with them and say, look at where you grew, look at what you did well, and how this worked, and this brought about this realization in what I was, going through or wanting help with. And having them connect the dots of like, when I did this, this is what happened. And you can see it in their face when we're doing feedback at the end of the session of just, this tool that you used here, or this skill that you brought into the session, you could see it on my face. You could see it in my body language and how I was responding to things. And to see them connect that dot of like, I saw that too. Wow. That is something that I think is the most incredible part. And across all of the students I work with, that's been the process. Sometimes it might be 3 or 4 sessions, but usually it's right after that second session, there's a little jump there.
Overall, Tom, what would you say you've enjoyed most about being a mentor coach?
I think it springboards off of just what we talked about a moment ago. It really has to do with seeing that growth in each and every student, in seeing them transition from not sure, I don't know if I can do this sometimes, or I'm not sure how to do this, to just finding a rhythm, being masterful in areas of coaching that sometimes they don't even realize until you give them feedback and say, wow, that was really awesome what you just did. Did you notice that? And they're like, wait, what? Huh? And to be able to see that transition, that growth, and then to share it back at them with acknowledgement and proof as well, both in the scoring, but also just in the feedback, and for me to see that confidence grow in them with every session that they do with me.
That's awesome. And this is the last question I have for you. What would be some of the tips that you would give a newer student who's perhaps they just enrolled in the academy? What are the tips you'd give them to really set them up for success as they go through the program?
I think probably 3 main things. First would be, well, I think maybe there's 4, but I'll just incorporate that one. First one is have fun with the process. I mean, really have fun with what you're learning, what you're doing, and in such a way that even when you mess up, you're having fun. And if you can bring some type of enjoyment into that process and the nerves, really can catapult the ability to learn it more quickly and to incorporate it into yourself. The second thing is really use your gifts. Really use what you have in your life, what the people in your life tell you, you're good at this. Like this is something that you do well. Bring those with you and use that within the coaching process in some way, shape, or form, or ask others like, how do I put this into it? But bring those gifts with you and use those. And I think the third thing is use your community here at Thriving Coach Academy. We have the ability to, whether it's online or some of your cohorts that you are in with the modules that you're taking right now, they are your lifeline and they help you to grow because they're in a similar process. And when you are able to reach out and gain that same support, you're on the same journey as them. And it not only benefits them, but it benefits you tremendously. So use them.
Good tips right there. I love that you emphasize not just having fun with receiving the feedback and messing up, but also leaning into the community, right? Because a coach can decide, oh, I'm just going to hire or pay a random coach to mentor me, but you're missing out on having a community of other coaches that could really support you and that you can learn from and collaborate with. So having both of those is really so key. So Tom, before we finish, I wanted to share some words from our coaches, things that they had to say about you. And I'm going to go through them. There's quite a bit. I had to dig through and actually pick out certain things because their feedback was so tremendous. So some of our coaches that have worked with Tom, here are some of the things that they've said about their experience. Okay, here's the truth. Okay, we're gonna roast Tom right now. One of them said, Tom has been a remarkable mentor coach. He's very warm and caring. I appreciate he balances honest feedback surrounding areas that need improvement with words of encouragement. The feedback is clearly expressed during our session and in the follow-up notes. One of the things I truly treasure about Tom is he has never made me feel disheartened or discouraged when I have fallen short. He has a gift of delivering feedback in a way that I feel honored to receive it and motivated to continue to improve. Another one of our coaches said, mentor coaching has been invaluable. It has been interesting to track my progress in all of the domains over the course of several sessions. I've been able to see how my scores have fluctuated through sessions and the analysis of what was getting in my way. This has added so much value to my learning, and thank you so much for this opportunity. Another one of our coaches said, Tom is very knowledgeable and his feedback is where I feel I've been able to make my greatest steps forward as a coach. Another coach said, this is such a valuable element of the program. While I find myself getting nervous coaching another experienced coach, it's such great practice. And I'm so grateful that this is a part of the academy to work with a mentor coach. We had another coach said, Tom is kind, thoughtful, and shares insights with honesty. He shares critiques from a place of support. He gives great feedback, and I'm impressed with his ability to take notes and share them with me afterwards. He's a great mentor coach, and I look forward to our sessions together. And I'll give one more. I could keep going. We had a coach that said, Tom, you put me at ease. Thank you. I feel so comfortable opening up about my thoughts and my questions. Thank you for being open in the sessions and the feedback. Thank you for being so patient and forward when you need to be. Yeah.
Thanks, Frank.
That was just a slice. Thank you, Tom, for sharing a bit of your wisdom with us, your story, and also your tips for our coaches going through the program so they could really get the most out of mentor coaching. We for sure are so grateful to have you on the team. So thank you for all that you do.
You are very welcome. And thank you, Frank, for having me on the team and having me be so welcome as well. I love it.
Awesome. Cool. All right. Thanks, listeners, for this very special episode. And hopefully you can utilize some of the tips that Tom has shared here to think about how you can sharpen your coaching skills and go from maybe a good coach to a great coach, an ordinary coach to an extraordinary coach. So thanks for joining us on this special episode, and we will see you in the next one. Bye. Hey, would you like access to powerful coaching tools you can use on yourself and clients right away? For being a listener of the podcast, I'm giving you a VIP guest pass to get a sneak peek into my coach training program. Inside, you'll learn our coaches' secret tool they use to transform their clients' lives. And you'll also get a training on how to launch a coaching business. Just head over to www.thrivingcoachacademy.com/VIP to get started. I'll see you on the inside.